The Donkey's Triumph, a story of resilience and self-worth. In a quiet village nestled between rolling hills and verdant meadows, there lived a farmer who owned a donkey that had served him faithfully for many years. This wasn't just any donkey. He had been the farmer's most reliable companion, carrying heavy loads through harsh weather, plowing fields during planting season, and transporting goods to the market every week without complaint. The bond between them was strong, forged through years of shared labor and mutual dependence. But as is the inevitable way of life, time marched on. The donkey's once powerful muscles began to weaken, his steps grew slower, and his ability to carry heavy loads diminished. Gray hairs appeared around his muzzle, and his eyes, though still bright with intelligence, showed the wariness that comes with age. The farmer, noticing these changes, gradually reduced the donkey's workload until eventually he was relieved of all duties. While the farmer wasn't cruel, he was practical. He couldn't justify feeding an animal that no longer contributed to the farm's productivity. Yet out of respect for their years together, he allowed the donkey to roam freely in the pastures, grazing as he pleased during his final days. The donkey, sensing his diminished value, accepted this new reality with quiet dignity, though he missed the sense of purpose that had defined his existence. One particularly warm afternoon, as the donkey wandered through a seldom visited corner of the property, disaster struck. The ground beneath his hooves suddenly gave way, and before he could react, he found himself plummeting into the darkness of an abandoned well. The fall wasn't fatal, but it left him trapped in a narrow, damp space with walls too steep and slick to climb. Panic seized him initially. He brayed loudly, his cries echoing up through the well's opening and across the fields, but no one was nearby to hear. Hours passed, and the donkey's throat grew hoarse from calling. The sun moved across the sky, casting the well into deeper shadow. As night approached, the temperature dropped, and the donkey, wet from the puddle at the bottom of the well, began to shiver. Morning came, and with it, a glimmer of hope. A villager passing by heard the donkey's weakened cries. Peering down into the well, he saw the poor animal standing in muddy water, looking up with pleading eyes. Without hesitation, the villager rushed to inform the farmer. The news spread quickly through the small community. The farmer, accompanied by several neighbors, hurried to the well. Looking down at his once valued companion, the farmer felt a complex mixture of emotions: concern for the animal's suffering, but also a pragmatic assessment of the situation. The well was deep and narrow, the donkey was heavy, and there was no easy way to lift him out. The group tried various methods. They lowered ropes, hoping the donkey might somehow secure them around himself. They discussed building a makeshift pulley system, but lacked the necessary materials. They even considered digging a sloped tunnel to the bottom of the well, but quickly realized the impracticality of such an undertaking. As the day wore on, the farmer made a difficult decision. The donkey was old, his useful life already behind him. The well, long dry until recent rains, was no longer needed. With a heavy heart, the farmer concluded that the most humane course of action would be to end the donkey's suffering by filling in the well, burying him quickly, rather than leaving him to a slow death from exposure and starvation. He shared his decision with the gathered neighbors. Some protested initially, but eventually, seeing no viable alternative, they reluctantly agreed. With solemn faces, they collected shovels from the farmer's barn and began the grim task of filling the well with earth. As the first shovelfuls of dirt rained down upon him, the donkey realized what was happening. His master, the human he had served loyally for years, had given up on him. A wave of despair washed over him, and he brayed pitifully, his cries now tinged with betrayal as well as fear. But then, something remarkable happened. As a clump of soil landed on his back, the donkey instinctively shook it off. The dirt fell to his feet, creating a small mound beneath him. Another shovelful came down, and again the donkey shook it off, the soil adding to the pile below. With each load of earth intended to bury him, the donkey found himself standing slightly higher in the well. This realization transformed his despair into determination. Instead of accepting his fate, he began to work with deliberate purpose. Each time dirt landed on his back, he would shake vigorously, then stamp the fallen soil firmly beneath his hooves. Shake it off, step up. Shake it off, step up. This became his mantra, his strategy for survival. The villagers continued their work, unaware of the transformation occurring below. They expected the donkey's cries to gradually weaken and cease, but instead they noticed something strange. The donkey had fallen silent, yet they could still see movement at the bottom of the well. Curious, the farmer peered down and was astonished by what he saw. The donkey wasn't being buried at all. Instead, he was steadily rising toward the surface, standing on an ever-growing mound of compacted earth. What had been intended as his grave was becoming his salvation. The neighbors watched in amazement as the donkey continued his methodical response to each shovelful. Shake it off, step up. Hour after hour, the level of earth in the well rose, and with it, the donkey. The villagers, now invested in this unexpected turn of events, worked with renewed energy, no longer filling the well to bury the animal but to help him ascend. By late afternoon, the donkey had risen so high that his ears became visible at the well's edge. With a final coordinated effort, the villagers added enough soil for the donkey to make one last powerful push. Gathering all his remaining strength, he leaped forward, his front hooves catching the edge of the well. With a tremendous heave, he pulled himself up and out, standing once again on solid ground. The gathered crowd erupted in cheers and applause. The farmer stepped forward, reaching out to touch the animal he had nearly condemned to death. But the donkey stepped back, regarding his former master with new eyes. There was no anger in his gaze, just a quiet dignity and a newfound understanding of his own worth. Without looking back, the donkey turned and walked away from the farm that had been his home. He didn't go far, just to the edge of the village, where an elderly widow lived alone. She had always been kind to him, offering apples and gentle words when she passed him in the fields. The donkey approached her small cottage and stood at her gate, braying softly. The widow, hearing the familiar sound, came outside. Seeing the dirt-covered donkey, she immediately understood that something significant had happened. Without hesitation, she opened her gate and welcomed him into her modest yard. From that day forward, the donkey found a new purpose, providing companionship to the lonely widow, carrying her small bundles from the market and warming her heart with his presence. As for the farmer, the incident left him profoundly changed. He had witnessed firsthand how resilience and determination could overcome seemingly impossible odds. He realized that value isn't always measured in productivity or youth, but sometimes in the wisdom and perseverance that come only with age and experience. The story of the donkey's triumph spread throughout the village and beyond, becoming a parable that parents told their children, teachers shared with students, and elders recounted during community gatherings. It became known as the donkey's triumph, a testament to the power of resilience in the face of adversity. The tale reminds us of several timeless truths. First, that life will inevitably throw dirt our way. Disappointments, setbacks, betrayals, and challenges that threaten to bury us. When this happens, we have two choices. We can allow ourselves to be overwhelmed and defeated, or we can shake it off and use it as a foundation to rise higher. Second, the story teaches us about the importance of self-reliance. The donkey didn't wait for someone else to save him. When he realized no help was coming, he took responsibility for his own survival. This doesn't mean we should never accept assistance from others, but rather that we shouldn't become dependent on it. Sometimes, the only person who can truly save us is ourselves. Third, it illustrates the power of perspective. What the farmer saw as a problem to be eliminated, an old donkey in a useless well, became the very means of the donkey's salvation. The dirt meant to bury him became the steps that led to his freedom. This reminds us that our greatest challenges often contain within them the seeds of opportunity, if only we have the wisdom to recognize them. Fourth, the donkey's story speaks to the value of persistence. He didn't rise out of the well with one great leap. He ascended gradually, one shovelful at a time. Each small action, repeated consistently, eventually produced a remarkable result. This teaches us that most significant achievements in life don't come from single heroic efforts, but from steady, persistent action over time. Finally, the tale reminds us of the importance of self-worth. The farmer had decided the donkey was no longer valuable, but the donkey proved him wrong. He demonstrated that his worth wasn't determined by others' assessments, but by his own inner strength and determination. This is perhaps the most powerful lesson of all, that regardless of how others may view us, our true value comes from within and is revealed most clearly in how we respond to life's challenges. In our own lives, we all face moments when we feel trapped in deep wells of despair, with dirt being shoveled upon us from all directions. We lose jobs, relationships end, health fails, dreams shatter. In these moments, the donkey's example offers us a path forward. Shake it off, step up, take what's meant to bury you, and use it instead to rise higher. The business person who loses everything can use that experience to build a more sustainable enterprise. The artist facing rejection can use criticism to refine their craft. The individual recovering from illness can transform their suffering into compassion for others. In each case, the principle is the same. What threatens to bury us can, if we approach it correctly, become the very thing that elevates us. The donkey's triumph wasn't just about physical survival. It was about maintaining dignity and purpose in the face of abandonment. It was about refusing to accept others' definitions of his worth. It was about transforming potential tragedy into unexpected victory. And perhaps most importantly, it reminds us that no matter how deep the well or how much dirt rains down upon us, we always have the power to shake it off and step up. Our circumstances may be beyond our control, but our response to them never is. In that response lies our greatest power and our truest measure of character. So the next time life throws dirt your way, remember the donkey. Shake it off, step up, and transform what was meant to bury you into the very foundation of your triumph.